But you also have to have the big picture. Your paddler's got the small picture, maybe like right in front and right behind. They got this sense of what's going on. You, as the steers person, need to have this sense of, okay, our canoe is 45 feet long. You need to have that sense of awareness of what is affecting your canoe. And that starts like the night before. So if you know you're going to paddle tomorrow morning, okay, we got fitness practice tomorrow. Tonight you're going to get online and you're going to check out, okay, what's the surf doing? What is the swell doing? What is the tide doing? What is the weather forecast? Are there any NOAA small craft advisories? You want to know that stuff before you even get on in the morning. You want to know what time the low tide is, how low it is, what time the high tide is, how high it is. That way you have a sense of what the currents are doing, what the waves are doing. And, as a steers person, it really helps to be a surfer, especially if you're, doing the racing training with the guys. There's waves that are caught, either out in the open ocean or near the coast. And as a steers person, you want to understand about waves, even if you choose not to try and catch any waves. I wouldn't recommend a steers person trying to catch waves if they don't understand waves. So we have steers people that are surfers. Surfers understand waves, and a canoe is different than a surfboard. You can understand waves and understand how a surfboard works in waves, but a canoe works completely differently, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so steers person has the big picture. You're responsible for the safety of the crew, the canoe, and other people that the crew and the canoe or your equipment might be affecting. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right into it. This is the Huli drill that we have on our website. You guys all should have looked at this already. I want you to pay attention, watch this, and then I'm going to talk about it and add a few changes to it. This is one of the best ones that I've seen on the website or on YouTube. And there's many different ways to perform a Huli drill. And it'll be different in all kinds of different situations. And it will be different depending upon your crew and what's going on. Okay, so this is just one example and we'll talk about it. Do we have sound on this as well?
I do not.
No sound, okay.
Sound, I can, hold on.
The Yama off the water. Paddlers leaning to the right, usually while paddling on the right side.
I don't know if the sound is better
Waves,
to turn.
boat wakes, or strong wind on the left can cause the Yama to pop.
You guys hear that? Can you guys hear that?
Steers
Okay.
person poking hard on the right side, or a strong draw stroke on the right. A huli might be prevented by a quick reaction of crew members doing a hip check against the left side of the boat without interrupting the stroke. When the huli is done, the boat is upside down. The Yama is on the right side, and the paddlers are in the water on the same side as the Yama, right. Huli recovery. Steersman first calls for a head count to make sure everyone is okay in order seat 1 through 5. Either have the paddlers tuck their paddles inside the boat under the seats, or 1 and 6 hold the paddles. If there is a weaker swimmer, they may be designated to hold all the paddles. 1 and 6 go to the bow and stern. If there's a strong wind chop, they should try to turn the boat so the Yama is on the downside when hulied. After righting the boat, the Yama will help keep waves from refilling the hull. 3 and 4 step on the upside down Iacos and climb up onto the hull straddling it. 2 and 5 go out to the end of the Iacos by the Yama and prepare to lift it by the Iaco. 3 and 4 swing both legs over and put a foot on the stump of the Iaco.
Notice it looks like they're standing in knee-deep water.
The the
They're very
Iyako on
tall.
the far side to help lift it, so they're laying over the hull. 6 calls out, "Ready, lift." 3 and 4 put weight on the Iyako stub, while 2 and 5 push hard up on the Iyako near the ama. Ideally, when the ama is straight above the hull, a slight pause to the roll gives time for 1 and 6 to lift the hull and let some of the water.
Yeah, you're standing in deep water.
As the ama comes down, 3 and 4 should try to slow the landing by pushing up on the Iyakos as they come down. 3 and 4 hold onto the gunnel and Iyako to stabilize the boat, while 2 and 5, or other seats designated by steersperson, climb in and bail like crazy toward the ama side of the canoe. When enough water is out, 6 will tell 3 and 4 to enter the boat and assist bailing. When safe, 1 and 6 will enter the boat, and the crew begins to paddle toward shore while still bailing.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead and pause it. Okay, so there's just a few things different than what we normally teach there. The first one is, after the canoe has hoolied. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to run through the hoolie drill the way that we've been teaching it. Okay, paddling along, canoe, hoolies, everybody's in the water on the right side. Okay, sound off your seat number. Check for your buddy. So your buddy is whoever's in the front or whoever's behind you. You just make sure they're okay, they didn't get bonked in the head. Okay, sounding off, seat number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, seats 3 and 4, climb up onto the yaku, over the hull, put your foot on the short piece on the muku, and on 3, you're gonna grab hold of the yaku and flip it over, and then catch the yaku with your hands as you fall back into the water so that the ama doesn't slam on the water and break. Okay, next thing I'm going to tell seat 2, jump in and start bailing. Okay, seat 5, I want you to get those water bottles, those PFDs that are over there, and then come back and hold on to the canoe. Okay, bailing, bailing, bailing. Okay, seat 3, go ahead and jump in. Seat 3 and 4 now are holding on to the ama. That way people can get in from the right-hand side. There's been some of the other hoolie drills that I've seen on YouTube and even in our club say, no, you don't ever get in on the right side of the canoe because you'll flip the canoe. So what we say here, and as they also talk about on this video, is when seats 3 and 4 flip it over, they hang on to the yaku or the ama to keep it down so that the other people can climb in on the right side of the canoe. So I'm going to keep this simple for right now. Okay, so seat 3, go ahead and get in and start bailing. So we've got seats 2 and 4 bailing, and then we've got, seats 2 and 3 bailing, and then seat 4 is still hanging onto the ama, making sure that it stays down and doesn't re-hoolie. Okay, bailing, 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 bailing. Okay, seat 5, get in. Bailing, 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 bailing. Okay, and then they talk about having seats 1 and 6 get in last. I wouldn't really recommend that. I would recommend that seat 6 get in there pretty soon. Because remember, seat 6, steersperson, you want to have the big picture. You want to see what's going on. If you're down in the water holding on to the canoe, you can't really see what's going on. Okay, so there's another job of seats 1 and 6 is to keep the canoe either pointed into the wind and the waves or parallel. We're going to talk about that in a minute. In this video, they talk about having it parallel to the wind and the waves so that when you flip it back over, the ama will be sort of defending the hull from the waves splashing in. Okay, so that's the way they talk about it there. Okay, so everybody gets in now. I ask the last person to get in would be seat 4 that's been hanging on to the ama so that they get in on the left-hand side so there's nobody pulling on the right. And then bailing, still bailing, bailing, and then we start paddling. And this will all happen in less than 2 minutes. Okay, unless there's adverse conditions, and that could be anything. The other thing they talked about here was having seats 5 and 6 help to lift the ama to bring it over, and then seats 1 and 6 lifting the canoe. So that, I mean, if you're in knee-deep water, yeah, okay, I can see that, but that's not usually what happens. Because the canoe is 400 pounds, and then you put water in it, and it's tons. So, so if you will show the next video, please, which is the how to write. Yeah, that one with the red on. So this is another option here, because some people say, hey, you know, how are we supposed to catch the yaku as we're coming back over if we're falling into the water? Go ahead and start playing it. So how are we supposed to do that if it's falling back? Okay, see, they just hoolied their canoe. Can we make this bigger?
Not really.
All right. And we don't have any, okay, we don't have any sound, so I'm going to talk. So I'm going to talk you through this. No, so, yeah,
Come back, come back.
You back for what?
To the,
Guy, can you?
I know it's full.
Okay.
You want to stand on this side?
No, that's fine. I'll be out of your way here. All right. So they hoolied seats. They're sounding off. They're putting their paddles up under the seat so that it will float up to the bottom side of the boat, so you can forget about your paddle. Sometimes they talk about, oh, I have this seat number grab the paddles, and this seat number's grab the paddles. No, forget about your paddles. Put them up under the seat, floats up to the bottom of the boat. So they've asked seats 3 and 4 to climb up and to pull. And what they're going to ask now is for seats 2 and 5 to come in between here, in between the yakus, and as the canoe is flipped, they're going to grab the underside gunnel. So they're going to reach under the canoe to the gunnel on the far side, and as it flips, that gunnel is going to come towards them. They're going to grab hold of that gunnel and put their knees up against it, and they're the counterbalance. That's to stop the ama from smacking on the water and breaking it. So watch. 2 and 5 are right there. And they're slowing the ama down by holding on to it and having their knees and their shins up against the side of the canoe. They can let it go down as gently as they want. So there's no more of this seats 3 and 4 trying to catch the yaku as it comes down.
And 2 and 5 aren't pushing it up.
And 2 and 5 aren't pushing it up. One person pretty much by themselves can re-hoolie the canoe, unless it's in really adverse conditions. Okay, so you got 2 people doing it. It's really easy to flip that ama back over. So it's really more about, you know, they talk about doing it slowly. Okay, go ahead and see how they're lifting it up. These 2 people are lifting that ama off of the water just by pulling on that side of the boat. Okay, so go ahead and stop that now. So that's the new way we're talking about doing it. No more of catching the yaku as it comes back over.
So they have the gunnel and they're pulling it towards them, is that what
So-
you're saying?
So imagine the canoe's upside down, the gunnels are this wide, right? You got one gunnel here and one gunnel here, and you're right here. So as the canoe rights, it's going to turn like this to be right side up. So this gunnel over here is going to come towards you. So what you do is you put your hands here, and as that gunnel comes towards you, right as it's starting to come out of the water, you put downward pressure on it, you put your knees up against it, you put your knee and your shins up against it and hang on to it, and you will have leverage to stop that ama from coming down and smacking the water. Okay? So that's an easy thing to do, and we don't have to try and catch the yakus anymore. Okay, so another thing that I tell people when you're going to hoolie is once you know you're going over, just go with it. Go in head first. Don't be like a cat and say, I'm not going to get wet. Because especially seats 2 and seats 4, when they fall in, they will hit the water and slow down their forward momentum. The canoe, however, still has forward momentum, and that yaku will come right over and hit you on the head. So that's why we do the head count in the beginning. That's why we say check your buddy. Your buddy's the person in front of you, the person behind you. Just say, hey, okay, whoa, so-and-so's grab him by the shirt and pull him up, you know. So go ahead and show this video. So this is a huli. I want you to watch seat 2 here. This is the cat-like reflexes. I just had to throw this in here. Don't try this at home, folks. It takes a little bit. It takes a little bit to. Seat 2. You see I'm not even getting wet. So that was pretty hot. Now I'm going to show it in slow motion again. It's going to be a minute here, so I'm going to talk. Now I want you to watch seat 4. Okay. Watch seat 4 closely. So there's not really any advantage to trying to do that. Even if you go, okay, I'm on top of the boat, I didn't get wet, you're still going to get wet when you flip the canoe back over, okay? Really all you're going to do is hurt yourself. Okay, watch seat 4. Okay, he's like, I'm going to do what seat 2 did. So he's going for it, right? He's going for it. He's halfway up the side. Okay, he's going down. He's going down. He stops going. The boat's still going. The yaku comes down on his shoulder. Okay? It didn't hit him. It didn't look like it hit him on the head. But so don't do that. Say, we're going over head first, go down. Come up with your hand up above your head. You'll be fine. Another time we did it, go ahead and shut that off. Another time we did a huli drill, and this person, I won't name any names, was in seat 3. And she just decided she was going to get as far away from the canoe as possible, right? So seat 3, she jumped out. It was like a mouse trap. Right on her head. Okay? So don't do that. Just head first down into the water, come up with your hand above your head. So, as a steers person, you want to know in your head, you want to have this memorized, the huli drill. Whenever you go out in the ocean with new people that have never paddled with you before, you want to go over the huli drill. It just takes 30 seconds. So I'm going to go over it one more time, then we're going to talk about some other situations. So welcome to our club. I hear that you're new. Welcome. You know, I wanted to just go over the huli drill. This doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it happens, and we just want everybody to know what to do. You've signed a waiver, right? So okay, you can swim. Okay, good. So so we're paddling along. You know, somebody leans to the right, or we get out of balance, or we get a wave up under in the wind, and it causes us to flip. So everybody ends up in the water on the right-hand side. Steers person will say, everybody sound off. Seat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, stow your paddle up under the seat so it floats to the bottom of the canoe. Forget about it. Seats 3 and 4, climb up on the yakus. Climb over the hull. Put your feet on the short piece of yaku called the muku. And on 3, I want you to flip it back over. 1, and I want seats 2 and 5. I want you guys to catch that gunnel as it comes and slow it down coming up. So on 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, you guys flipped it over. Good job. The ama went down slowly because seats 2 and 5 were doing their thing. Okay, seat 2, jump in and start bailing. Seat 5, I see a paddle and a PFD over there. Go get it. Okay, so they're doing that. Okay, seat 3, go ahead and jump in and start paddling. Start bailing. So when you bail, you want to bail to the outrigger side, the ama side, because otherwise it could, could cause you to flip. And seat 4 is still hanging onto the ama, making sure that the ama doesn't come up. Okay, bailing. Just a little bit of water, okay? We're not taking the whole 5-gallon bucket and filling it up and dumping it. That will hurt yourself. You'll hurt yourself, especially if you're working really hard. If you're using the 5-gallon bucket, 1 gallon, like this. Fast, 1 gallon. okay? And the little 1 gallon soap containers, fast as you can get that water out. I mean, just motor, like a motor. And in less than 2 minutes, you'll be back in the canoe. So I'll go ahead and get in. I'll ask seat 1 to get in. And always you're going to be listening to your steersperson who will be giving the directions. So seats 1 and 6 will either be, pointing directly into the wind and the waves, or you'll be, parallel to it, and I'll talk about why that is. So everybody gets in, everybody's paddling again, less than 2 minutes. Okay, Gary talked about 1 to 3 minutes is the, when you're having the cold shock. Now that's really important. A lot of people are like, I have no problem swimming, I have no problem being in the water, I'm a surfer, whatever. Surfers I don't think have this problem, but you're paddling along in the water, you're hot, you've been paddling, you're at least warm, you go over in the water, you have cold shock. At least half the people that I see that go over come up and they're freaked, just freaked out. They can't breathe and they're freaked. And it takes them a moment, or even longer than a moment, 1 to 3 minutes is what Gary was saying, for them to feel, okay, I'm okay. So you just have to know that happens. And sometimes people are incapacitated and they can't, you ask them, okay, number three, climb up and over the hole. And they're like, they can't do anything. So you got to ask someone else. So it just changes the dynamics. So as far as what person does what, it may change depending upon the situation. Okay, so the whole part about what direction the canoe is going to be pointing. So some of these huli drills say, point into the wind and the waves. Other huli drills say, go parallel to the wind and the waves. Okay, let's talk about that. So at least half of the hulis that we have are surf related. In the surf at Cowles or over there at, there's lots of places where we flip because of the waves. So in that particular case, you want to be pointed into the wind and the swell. You don't want to get the canoe in between you and a breaking wave, because a canoe, when it's filled with water, is tons. It's like a log coming at you. So you don't want that to happen. You want to get on the other side in that particular case. If you can, you want to get the canoe pointed into the swell. That way you're not going to be pushed wave after wave after wave and smashed onto the beach or onto the rocks. If you're pointed into the swell and in the surf in that way, then you have at least some measure of control over the canoe. Now, if you're out in the ocean, that can be a different situation. We could be all about, always point the canoe into the wind and the waves, but we're out there at Mile Buoy, the winds are blowing 25 knots, and we've got 3 to 4 foot wind swell. Some of you guys are familiar with this. I've seen a couple of different hulis out there. The first one I want to talk about was with women paddlers. So we make the turn out there at Mile Buoy, and we're going to go paddle back to Twin Lakes, and I look over my shoulder at the women's canoe behind me, and I see that they have huli. And so we go paddle back around, and they were already up and going. I was amazed. But they stayed parallel to the waves. Now, another huli that I saw was under a very similar situation. Going around Mile Buoy, okay, we're going to head up towards Seal Rock. And right after that turn, they hulied, and they kept the canoe pointing into the wind and the waves. It was the northwest wind swell and winds that we're all very familiar with in the afternoon at Racing Paddle. And it was, it was starting to get white caps and everything. And so they were pointed in, and so they'd flip the canoe, they'd flipped it back over, they had people in bailing, and every time a wave came across the front of the canoe, it filled up the canoe all the way down. Now, so in that particular situation, it possibly would have been better to be parallel. Because as I said before, the time that I'd seen that before, it was a women's canoe, and they stayed parallel. When they flipped the canoe back over, their ama was parallel to the wind and the swell, and it somewhat protected water from getting in. And also, so a bit of the physics here is when the canoe full of water is parallel to the waves, it it maintains the water level. You may only have 5 inches of gunnel showing above the water, but it all stays at the same level. So if the waves are going like this, the canoe is going like this. So when a wave comes along, it's going to take the canoe up with it, possibly not filling it with water. If you have it turned the other way, the canoe is staying at the basic level of the ocean, and the wave is a couple feet or more higher than that, and it's filling up either side of the canoe, all 45 feet long of it. So you want to have some sense of, okay, well, in this situation it might be better to be pointed into it. In this situation it might be better to be pointed parallel. If you've flipped your canoe back over and you're getting filled up being perpendicular to it, try going parallel to it. Now this is what I'm talking about out in the ocean. In the surf zone, you just don't want to be parallel to the waves. So there's another situation I want to talk about, which is swamping. That's when the canoe gets filled with water, but it's not because of a hoolie. So it's basically the same situation where you could flip the canoe upside down and then flip it back over in the way that we've talked about. Now, as you flip it over, there's air in the chamber in the back of the canoe, and there's air in the chamber in the front of the canoe, so that there is some buoyancy to the canoe. And as long as seats 1 and 6 and other people aren't hanging on the canoe as it flips over, it can maintain some of that buoyancy and get more water out of it. They talk about having the canoe when it's flipped back over to have it go slowly. That way there's a little bit more time for the water to get out. So that's part of the idea when they see people standing in knee deep and lifting the front of the canoe and the back of the canoe and lifting the ama up and over, standing in knee deep of water. Okay, I had to laugh at that the first time I saw that. But the idea is that there's buoyancy in the front and the back of the canoe, and as long as you're not putting weight on the canoe, you can use that buoyancy to help get more water out of the canoe as it's flipped back over. So when you swamp, that typically happens, out in the ocean because the surf is so rough, and it can be treated, not the surf, but the wind waves are so rough that you're getting your boat filled up. Well, you may just need to have someone bailing full time. In those kind of conditions, you might even want to have seat 5 or your alternate steers person hanging out there on the ama. There's been times when we've been paddling, towards Seal Walk or way out there where we got this quartering, where we've got the swell and the wind coming at an angle to the canoe. And that ama is just popping and popping, and you might want to have seat 5 just hang out there on that for a while. So in regards to the swamping, I want to talk about one particular incident that happened. Catching a wave at Cowles, and we got swamped, and it was the set wave of the day. So so when you guys are studying up the night before for the conditions, what I want you guys to do is go, okay, this is what I found out the conditions are going to be tomorrow. Okay, swell is going to be 10 feet at 17 seconds from the west-northwest. The winds are going to be 12 miles an hour from the west. Tide's going to be low at 11 p.m., 11 a.m. I want you to take all that information, and when you go out in the ocean in the morning, you go, oh, okay, so this is what a 10-foot swell at 17 seconds looks like from the west-northwest at a tide at this level, at this particular break. So you want to be checking out the breaks as you're going by with that information that you have researched the night before. And compare that. So every time you go out, you get that information before you go out, you compare it to what you see out there in the ocean, and then you get a better understanding of what all that means. How to interpret that information. So back to swamping, there we were at Cowles. It was probably a long interval swell. A long interval swell can be really deceptive. You go, oh, it's only 4 feet from the south at 22 seconds. 4 feet, or 3 feet 3 feet at 22 seconds is scary. 3 feet at 10 seconds is like nothing. How could that be? So the reason for that is that's a 22-second swell, or a long interval swell, is very deep swell. It hits the contours of the ocean way out there and has much more power. So a 3-foot swell at 22 seconds can be 10 feet when it's breaking, or more, 10 or 12 feet. And you may only have a few waves in a set, but when you look up on Surfline and you see a long interval between the waves, know that you need to be careful, because you can get caught by surprise going out of the harbor, coming into the harbor, going around the surf breaks like Steamer Lane at Middle Peak, or even at Cowles if you decide, oh hey, today looks like a good day to catch an easy wave. It's only like 2 feet at 22 seconds from the south. That could be really gnarly. So this time when we caught this wave, we were surfing along just great. We don't surf here in this club though, do we? So we were riding along, and the wave, the white water, ended up filling the canoe because we were going along, and we probably should have turned in a little bit. But if you guys, you new people that are ever, if you guys are ever going to catch a wave, you have to really know about waves. Talk to Dave Wayner and Matt Muirhead. Those guys are the two resident experts here on riding waves, and say, how the heck do you do it? But just know that it's really, you have to really be an expert. You have to really know waves, you have to know how to surf, and you have to understand the canoe. So anyway, here, back to this swamping. So there we were, we got swamped in the first wave of the set, and there was like 4 more waves after it. So I'm like, okay, so we're gonna flip the boat over. I asked everybody to get out of the water, flip the boat over, and we pointed into the swell, and people are bailing, so another wave comes, fills the canoe. Okay, flip it over, Hooli. Meanwhile, Dave Wayner's over there in the canoe looking at us. So we did that like 3 or 4 times, and Phil remembers that one. But like 3 or 4 times, like by the 4th one, people are starting to get cold. We haven't gotten to the end of the set yet. And so Dave came over and helped us out a bit, and we got out of that situation, relatively unscathed. But we were in the water for a little while, and my muscles were not working very well. It was like 4 waves in the water, swimming around and stuff. But what I learned about that is, if we could have paddled 50 feet out further from where we got caught inside, we could have missed those other waves. Those other waves wouldn't have hit us. So then I thought, well, Mike I was in the boat at that time, and he's like, what? You want me to get out of the boat? Like, here comes a wave. I should have just said, Mike, paddle through that wave. Sure, you got a submarine and you have more, resistance here because the gunnels are only this far into the water. But maybe one person or the steers person stays in the boat, and if you can get that boat 50 feet, you're not going to take any more waves on top anymore. You just ask everybody, swim out with me. Grab those PFDs, put them on if you feel like you need it, but swim out. Don't be going like, okay, follow me out for a quarter mile. But in that case, there was a judgment call, and I feel like, if I would have made that judgment, okay, just paddle out a little bit, I think, we would have done better. So
the boat's still up, right? When you said that you told people to get out of the boat?
Yes, because it was full.
It was full, so you had them get out, and the water's like still not, they can't stand, they're still in...
Yeah, so they were in, however deep of water, so they weren't able to stand.
Okay, so they're outside of the boat doing what? Just hanging on?
Yeah, so they're outside of the boat. In this case, it's almost like a Hooli, but you flipped the canoe back over, and now it's full of water. So everybody stays next to the canoe.
Okay.
Everybody's in their positions, watching gear and stuff. Only they're actually in the surf zone, so there's other things they have to watch out for. Does that answer your question?
Well, I'm trying to figure out why you're doing it. Like, so to make it higher, is to get it out of the wave? What's higher?
Why did I ask
Why is
everybody?
everybody getting out?
Because the canoe is completely full of
And so
water.
it's too low.
It's
Is
too
it
low.
okay?
To empty the water out, we had to hoolie it and
Oh,
re-hoolie
hoolie
it.
it and come back in, okay,
Right,
okay, got
We
it.
had to flip it and
And then bring it
and
back.
then bring it back.
So
It's
you
the only
forced
way
the
to get,
Okay,
force some of the water out of the canoe.
Exactly,
okay.
exactly, yes.
So I think you said that you had to do that, several times.
We probably
to the
did it
set.
4 times.
So what about waiting till the set's over before trying to recover?
That would be a possibility. Every time a wave comes in, you're getting pushed further and further in. Depending upon the situation, Cowles is a relatively benign break where if you get pushed all the way in, if it's not a high tide, if it's relatively low tide, you could get pushed in all the way to the beach. Most of the other reef breaks are not so benign. There's reefs and there's rocks. So like something's got to happen. Otherwise, you're going to end up on the reef and the rocks, and with the waves pounding it and just completely destroy the canoe. And who knows how the people are. Again, you don't want to get caught between. You don't want the canoe to be in between you and the wave, because the wave pushing that canoe full of water. Think of a log, a solid log of a tree this big around coming at you in the water like this. Just completely mow you over. So, okay. All right, so that was the swamping. Basically, you want to treat it like a hoolie, where you flip the canoe back over, try to get more water out of it, hopefully get it a half empty or 2/3 empty, and then get someone in to start bailing. All right, so it's almost 8:30 now, and I know you guys are only supposed to be here till 8, so I just want to ask if there's any hoolie-specific questions here. Yes?
So with the new responsibilities of seat 2 and 5, are they inside the yakus or outside? Or does
They talk about moving to the inside of the yakus, which isn't that hard, because if the yaku's right here and you're in seat 5, you just move to right here.
Okay.
And I don't know how much difference it really makes. You just don't want to get hit by the yaku if it comes back down on top. You just want to be out of the way. Yes?
So let's say that, I'm not picking on you, Ruthie, but let's say Ruthie and I are in seats 2 and 4. And let's say Matt and you are in seats, any other seat. Like as a steers person, I would want to have the tall people reach out over and flip the canoe over.
Yes, I know Ruthie's talked about that before. In that red canoe, what they showed was, because Ruthie says, I can't reach over the canoe.
Now I follow.
I can't reach over the canoe to the yaku. So you would just ask somebody else to do it.
Okay.
You look at the situation, you look at who's in the water. Someone may be like, I can't breathe. You're not going to ask them to go and climb up. You're going to ask somebody else. And you just adjust in that situation. Yes. Ty?
Want to comment on hoolie recovery for the Unlimiteds?
The Unlimited canoe is about half the weight. About half the weight. It's designed a little differently. It's not as open. I think you have more cockpit type situations. A lot of times you have the spray skirt. You want to make sure that if you're in the canoe and you have the spray skirt on, that you don't have anything underneath. A lot of times people have their hydration packs on. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to put my hydration pack underneath the skirt and have my hose come up, I'm all good. No, don't do that. Because they talk about when you flip and you have a skirt on, you're still going to push off the bottom of the canoe to get out. So you want to try that, when you're upright. Go, can I get out of this skirt? So you put the skirt on, you push straight up with your feet like this, can I get out of it? So you make sure you don't have anything around your waist that skirt is going to restrict you and hold you in the canoe. Now because the Unlimited canoe only weighs about half as much, it's going to be much easier to handle as far as flipping it back over and not having the alma slam on the water and stuff. As far as bailing, it might be more awkward because I think you're kind of restricted with your space, but it could still be done. Yes, Pam.
So, the one hoolie that I was in the Unlimited, it was hard because the hull is higher.
Taller.
Taller.
Yeah.
So, I think it was Sean. was like trying to climb over, so I grabbed his hand. So the person on the other side can help pull the person over who's gonna flip the canoe back if it's hard for them to get over.
Okay, hold on a second. So it sounds like you're talking about that person was on the left side of the canoe trying to climb over from that side.
Correct.
So that's one of the reasons we talk about having everybody stay on the right-hand side of the canoe, except for the people that flip it, is because you want to have everybody in one place. You don't want to have people trying to swim under. And if you're trying to climb up on the left side of the canoe, it's really hard. Bob knows it. Remember that, Bob? You went around to the left side of the canoe, I asked you to flip it over, and you're like trying to climb up on that little muku and trying to get over the top, and it's just really hard. So that's why you start on the right side of the canoe. You climb up on the yaku, which is about this far under the water, and then you climb over the hull. And even if you don't have a little muku there, you can say, here, hold my hand so I don't slide off. You can ask seat 5 to hold your hand so I don't slide off. Same thing with over here at seat 2. Hey, hold my hand so I don't slide off the back. And then they grab hold and flip over. Did that answer your question, Pam?
So the unlimiteds don't have that little step.
Okay, so you don't have that muku. So that's where you have to get help from seats 2 and 5 to hold your hand so you don't slip off.
Well, I don't even know how it happened, but Sean was on the other side of the boat. So the canoe flipped. Sean was on this side, I'm on this side.
I was on the other side. Sean pushed the arm up.
Right.
What you could do in an unlimited is push
Yeah, but
the arm
he
up, and I
was-
was on the other side.
But
when
I
it
grabbed,
came over.
was it your hand?
Yeah.
So you were on the other side.
Yeah.
He pushed it. He was on the other side, but I had to like pull you to help you bring the canoe over.
Right. So every situation is different depending upon the situation. And the steers, everybody wants to know that the steers person is in charge. You know, tell people to do something. Sometimes it almost doesn't matter what you tell them to do. It's a feeling of security that the other paddlers have that, okay, my steers person has got my back and is making things happen. Okay, Ruthie.
I was going to say the same thing that Pam was saying. We hoolied one time and I got the boat over, but it took, I could crawl over, I just couldn't reach the other side. So you have somebody on that other side take your hand and help you.
Yep.
And it works. You
Yep.
can be on, I'm only 4 feet,
Yep.
okay? But you can be 4 feet and do it,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
With a little help.
With a little help, with perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Any more questions about the hoolie? Okay, I'd love to, there's so many other topics of discussion around this and around what we've done and the experience that we've had in the ocean, but hey, it's 8:35 and I think it's time to call it a night,
Thank you,
right,
guys.
Leslie?
Thank you, guys.